the young and the restless spoilers. Audra and Nate were paralyzed by fear, apprehensive of what Tucker might do in the future. Audra proposed a drastic solution: they should kill Tucker to secure their peace. Nate, a timid man by nature, was reluctant. As a doctor, he had never harmed anyone, his life dedicated to healing rather than hurting. Audra's threat was sharp and uncompromising. She declared that if Nate didn't go through with the plan, she would leave him. Angered, Nate promised to protect her. He had knowledge of poisons, and devised a plan to stage Tucker's murder as a poisoning accident. Audra, still receiving Tucker's care and attention, would carry out the act. With grim determination, Audra agreed. She would be the one to slip the poison into Tucker's drink. Trusting her implicitly, Tucker would never suspect a thing. As they schemed, the weight of their actions pressed heavily upon them. The line they were about to cross would change everything, putting them at risk of facing the full force of the law if their crime were uncovered. The plan was simple, yet fraught with peril. Nate prepared the poison, a concoction potent enough to kill but designed to mimic a natural death. Audra's role was to ensure Tucker ingested it without suspicion. The day arrived, and Audra executed her part of the plan with chilling precision. She invited Tucker over, maintaining an air of normalcy. Pouring him a drink, she added the poison with a steady hand. As she handed the glass to Tucker, she felt a surge of guilt and fear, but she quickly buried it. Tucker, oblivious to the danger, took the drink with a grateful smile. Nate, meanwhile, was consumed by a whirlwind of emotions. His commitment to Audra clashed violently with his moral compass. He knew the potential consequences of their actions and the irreversible damage it could cause. Tucker sipped the drink, and for a moment, everything seemed normal. But soon, signs of distress began to show. His breathing became labored, and he clutched his chest, confusion and fear evident in his eyes. Audra watched, her heart pounding, as Tucker's condition deteriorated. She felt a pang of regret but remained resolute. Nate entered the room, his expression a mask of false concern. He knelt beside Tucker, pretending to assess his condition. "Hang in there, Tucker," he said, his voice trembling with a mix of fear and resolve. Tucker's eyes locked onto Nate's, a silent plea for help. But Nate knew there was nothing he could do. The poison was already at work, and Tucker's fate was sealed. He collapsed, his body going limp. Audra and Nate exchanged a look, the gravity of their actions settling over them like a dark cloud. They had done the unthinkable, and there was no turning back. As they waited for the inevitable, the fear of being discovered gnawed at their minds. The aftermath was tense. Nate and Audra meticulously cleaned any evidence of their involvement. They called the authorities, fabricating a story about Tucker's sudden collapse. The paramedics arrived, but it was too late. Tucker was pronounced dead at the scene, the cause of death appearing to be a heart attack. However, doubts lingered. The police began their investigation, probing into Tucker's life and the circumstances surrounding his death. Nate and Audra put on a facade of grief and shock, but every interaction with the investigators was fraught with anxiety. Weeks passed, and the investigation continued. The toxicology report came back inconclusive, and while there were no immediate signs of foul play, suspicions remained. Nate and Audra lived under the constant threat of exposure, their every move scrutinized. The pressure took its toll. Audra's guilt became unbearable, and she began to unravel, her composure slipping. Nate, too, found it increasingly difficult to maintain the charade. Their relationship, built on a foundation of deceit and fear, started to crack. In a dramatic turn of events, an anonymous tip reached the police, suggesting that Tucker's death was not as it seemed. The authorities reopened the case, this time with a sharper focus on Audra and Nate. The walls were closing in, and their carefully constructed lies began to crumble. As the evidence mounted, Nate and Audra realized they were trapped. They had crossed a line, and there was no escaping the consequences. In a final act of desperation, Audra considered fleeing, but Nate convinced her to face the music. They had made their bed, and now they had to lie in it. The climax came swiftly. Nate and Audra were arrested, charged with conspiracy and murder. The trial was a media sensation, their twisted tale of love, betrayal, and murder captivating the public. The jury found them guilty, and they were sentenced to life in prison, their future sealed by their own hands.